June 5, 2022. Atlanta, Georgia. The sirens sliced through the humid night as officers pulled up to a stately two-story home in the quiet suburb of East Point. Inside, a pregnant woman, beloved school teacher, 31-year-old Layla Monroe, lay lifeless at the foot of her staircase, her body bruised, bloodied, and cold. The child she carried, 8 months along, was gone too. Police called it a tragic accident. Friends called it unthinkable. But what no one knew yet was that her husband, Marcus, had already moved on. Not just emotionally, but romantically. 1 week later, while friends and family were still lighting candles at Layla's vigil, Marcus was swiping on a dating app. Not just chatting, but meeting. And one of the women he met was someone who had spoken at Layla's funeral, someone Layla had once called sister. This is the story of deception in East Point, a tale of love, lies, and betrayal buried beneath a picture-perfect marriage. Layla Monroe was the heartbeat of her community. A second-grade teacher at Jefferson Elementary, she was known for her big laugh, her homemade pound cakes, and her unwavering loyalty. Her husband, Marcus Monroe, owned a local real estate agency and was often seen by her side, at church, at neighborhood cookouts, at her baby shower just 3 weeks before she died. They were the it couple, young, black, successful, and expecting their first child after nearly a decade of marriage. Their East Point home sat at the end of a quiet cul-de-sac with a manicured lawn, a front porch swing, and a welcome mat that read, "Family is everything." But behind the walls of that dream home, something darker was brewing. Neighbors would later say they heard shouting late into the night. A few recalled seeing Layla crying in her car. But no one could have predicted that just days before her scheduled C-section, she'd be found dead, and that Marcus's alibi would fall apart before the week was over. Because while detectives were still piecing together Layla's final hours, Marcus was doing something unthinkable, creating an online dating profile. His profile picture? A selfie taken at his wife's repass. Even more shocking, the woman he messaged first was none other than Simone Jackson, Layla's best friend since college, her maid of honor, and godmother to the unborn baby. Their affair had already begun long before Layla's death, but the events that followed would twist into something even more disturbing. Was this a tragic accident? A fatal fall? Or the perfect murder dressed up as misfortune? And just how far would someone go to rewrite the future? It was just past 7 a.m. on a Sunday when Marcus Monroe dialed 911. His voice was steady, almost too steady, as he told the dispatcher he'd just found his wife at the bottom of the stairs. He claimed he'd returned home from an early gym session and discovered Layla unresponsive. No mention of blood. No mention of the shattered picture frame next to her body. Just 4 words: she's not waking up. When first responders arrived at the Monroe residence on Maple Ridge Lane, the scene was eerie. There was no sign of forced entry. The front door was unlocked. The lights were still on. And Layla's phone, screen cracked, was found on the kitchen counter, its last outgoing message sent at 11:42 p.m. She'd texted her sister, "He's out again. Don't feel right." Paramedics pronounced Layla Monroe dead at the scene. Her unborn daughter, due in just 12 days, could not be saved. Marcus sat outside on the porch, arms crossed, expression unreadable. He declined to ride with Layla's body to the hospital. From the beginning, detectives noted something off. For starters, Marcus hadn't performed CPR, something even the most panicked spouses attempt. He didn't ask if there was any way to save the baby, and when asked to walk them through the events of the morning, his timeline was vague. He'd left around 5:30 to clear his head, he said. Went for a drive, hit the gym. But there was a problem. Security cameras from the neighbor across the street showed no car leaving the Monroe driveway that morning until after 6:40 a.m., less than 30 minutes before the 911 call. Then there was the staircase. At first glance, it looked like a fall, wooden steps, steep incline, and Layla's socked feet. But forensic investigators noticed something troubling. A distinct pattern of bruising around her neck, a defensive scratch on her forearm, and just under her fingernails, traces of skin. Still, it wasn't enough to make an arrest. The coroner's office initially listed the cause of death as blunt force trauma consistent with a fall. But an assistant pathologist flagged something deeper. Small hemorrhages in the eyes, a red flag for strangulation. The report was amended to suspicious. Meanwhile, Layla's family was already suspicious. Her sister Camille told reporters, "Layla was scared. She'd confided in me a week before she died. Said she thought Marcus was cheating. Said he'd been distant, cold. She never imagined that her sister's killer could be someone so close. As investigators dug deeper, they uncovered something that turned the case upside down. Marcus Monroe had downloaded a dating app just 6 days after Layla's death. The account was active, updated, and most jaw-droppingly, geotagged from Simone Jackson's condo in Buckhead. Simone, the same woman who had held Layla's hand during her pregnancy, who had cried at the hospital, who had posted a tribute with the hashtag Justice for Layla. Detectives subpoenaed text messages between Marcus and Simone. What they found was chilling. The affair hadn't just continued after Layla's death. It had accelerated. And even worse, there were messages from before Layla died. Messages that hinted at frustration, longing, and a plan. One message from Simone, just 3 days before Layla was found dead, read, "You said you'd handle it. I can't keep waiting." Was this grief? Or guilt? Was this coincidence or conspiracy? Before we continue, please take just 2 seconds to click the subscribe button. It really means a lot to us. Thank you. To understand the gravity of what happened to Layla Monroe, you have to understand who she was. Born and raised in College Park, Georgia, Layla Renee Holloway was the second of 3 daughters. Her father was a pastor, her mother a retired nurse. From a young age, Layla was known for her magnetic energy. She was the girl who tutored classmates after school, led the church choir on Sundays, and still made time to bake cookies for her neighbors. She met Marcus Monroe at Spelman College during a spring fundraiser in her sophomore year. He was tall, smooth-talking, and studying business at Morehouse. Everyone said they were perfect together. 2 driven, charismatic young people destined to build a life rooted in purpose and success. After college, Layla went on to earn a master's degree in early childhood education. She became a second-grade teacher at Jefferson Elementary, where she taught for 7 years. Her classroom was a safe haven, decorated with affirmations, soft colors, and a bookshelf filled with diverse authors. Former students described her as the teacher who made you feel seen. To her friends, Layla was the glue, the organizer, the one who sent birthday cards, who remembered anniversaries, who showed up with soup when you were sick. Her best friend Simone once said in an interview, "Layla had a heart too big for this world. She forgave more than she should have. But that was her magic. She always gave love, even when it hurt. And she had waited so long for her own love story to bloom." After 8 years of marriage, she and Marcus finally announced their pregnancy in October 2021. The announcement came via a video on Instagram, Layla opening a tiny shoebox, gasping as she found baby shoes inside. The caption read, "God's timing is perfect. Baby Monroe coming June 2022. The outpouring of love was overwhelming. Friends and strangers alike followed her pregnancy updates, her bump photos, her nursery preparations, her excitement over baby names. She had chosen to name the baby girl Promise. But Layla's joy was shadowed by a silent struggle, one she kept from most people. According to her sister Camille, Layla had grown worried in the final weeks of her pregnancy. She said Marcus was pulling away, Camille recalled. She didn't know why, thought maybe it was the stress of the baby. But then she found a text. Layla had confided in a cousin about a message she'd seen on Marcus's phone. It was brief, just a heart emoji and the word soon. She never said who it was from, but she cried for hours that night. And yet, she stayed. For the baby. For the future she had fought to build. At her funeral, over 200 people packed the pews at New Light Baptist Church. Children held up signs that read, "Miss Monroe was the best." Her principal choked back tears as he said, "She was the kind of teacher who changed lives. The kind of woman who made you believe in good." So when whispers of Marcus's dating app surfaced, when Simone was seen leaving his house just days after the funeral, the community erupted. This wasn't just betrayal, it was blasphemy. And the more investigators uncovered, the more it seemed Layla hadn't just died tragically. She had been betrayed by the 2 people she trusted most. The public outrage was immediate. When whispers turned to screenshots, and screenshots turned to receipts, the perfect image of Marcus Monroe began to crack. What started as vague suspicion turned into something far more damning. The moment Simone Jackson was seen leaving Marcus's home on June 13th, just 8 days after Layla's death, the court of public opinion rendered its verdict. Something was very, very wrong. And so did the police. Detectives obtained a search warrant for Marcus's phone. What they uncovered would unravel every lie he had carefully constructed. First came the texts. Over 400 pages of messages between Marcus and Simone, spanning over 10 months. Some were flirtatious, some sexual, but others were much darker. Tensions, ultimatums, plans. One text, sent from Simone just 2 weeks before Layla's death, read, "I'm not doing this in the shadows anymore. I need to be number one." Another from Marcus, for days before Layla died. "Everything changes soon. Just trust me." Investigators also found encrypted messaging apps and several deleted threads, most of which were recovered from cloud backups. One disturbing message, sent on the night Layla died, simply read, "It's done." But perhaps most shocking was what was discovered from digital forensics on Simone's devices. A Google search history that included, "How to induce a fall downstairs," "Signs of strangulation without bruising," "Is bruising on neck always visible after death?" Each of these searches had been made in the weeks leading up to Layla's death. And then came the surveillance. A traffic cam just blocks from the Monroe home captured a black Audi entering the neighborhood around 11:06 p.m. on June 4th, the night before Layla was found dead. Simone Jackson drove a black Audi. Though she initially denied being there, phone GPS data told another story. Simone's phone had been within 30 feet of the Monroe residence from 11:03 p.m. to 11:41 p.m., the exact window when Layla's phone went silent. When detectives brought Simone in for questioning, her demeanor shifted fast. The confident, composed woman seen on Instagram was gone. In her place was someone defensive, evasive. "I was checking on him," she claimed. "He needed support. Layla and Marcus were having problems." But when asked about the text saying "it's done," Simone clammed up. She asked for a lawyer. Meanwhile, Marcus maintained his innocence. He insisted he had nothing to do with Layla's death. "She fell," he said. "She was tired. She slipped. It was late. It was raining. I wasn't even there." But new witness testimony cast more doubt. A neighbor, Darnell Porter, told detectives he saw someone leaving the Monroe home just before midnight. A woman in a hoodie moving fast. He didn't think much of it until he saw Simone's picture on the news. And then came an unexpected turn. An anonymous tip came in to the East Point PD tip line. "You should check Marcus's office. Behind the bookshelf. He's hiding something." Detectives executed a secondary search warrant at Marcus's real estate firm. There, behind a false panel in the bookshelf, they found a hidden fireproof lockbox. Inside, a burner phone, 2 SIM cards, and a printed copy of a will, signed just 10 days before Layla's death. The new will, notarized by a woman later revealed to be Simone's cousin, removed Layla's sister as the executor and instead named Marcus Monroe as the sole heir to Layla's life insurance policy, valued at $500,000. But the real bombshell? The baby's name, Promise, was nowhere to be found in the amended document. If something happened to Layla and the baby didn't survive, Marcus would receive everything. Even seasoned detectives were stunned. It was a chilling twist no one saw coming. A man preparing to inherit everything from a wife he was already emotionally done with. And at his side, the woman who stood at Layla's baby shower, rubbing her belly and smiling for the camera. But there was still one more player no one expected. A man named Tyrone Lewis, a quiet janitor who worked nights at Simone's condo building. He called into police with a simple message. "I saw her. The night Layla died. She wasn't alone. A man was with her." And with that statement, the case exploded in a new direction. Simone hadn't acted alone. There was someone else, a third accomplice. And what investigators discovered next would turn the entire timeline and motive on its head. When Tyrone Lewis came forward, detectives weren't sure what to make of him. He was soft-spoken, nearly 60, and had worked as a maintenance man for over a decade without so much as a parking ticket. But what he said was both simple and explosive. "That night, I saw Simone Jackson come into the building with a man. Not Marcus. Someone taller. Younger. He was wearing gloves. They went into her apartment. He left less than an hour later. Alone. He hadn't told anyone before, afraid of getting involved. But after seeing Simone on the news and hearing whispers about insurance money, he felt compelled to speak. Now detectives had a new thread to pull, and it unraveled quickly. Phone records showed a number frequently contacting both Marcus and Simone in the months before Layla's death. Registered to a Devin Harris, 28 years old, former college basketball player, now working part-time at Marcus Monroe's real estate firm. Devin was more than just an employee. He was Marcus's mentee, a young man he often called Little Bro. But what detectives found next redefined that relationship entirely. Surveillance from the night of June 4th, captured from a local hardware store, showed Devin Harris purchasing 2 items: a pair of black latex gloves and industrial-strength bleach. When police brought him in for questioning, Devin cracked fast. Under pressure, he admitted he had been at the Monroe house that night, but not to kill Layla, he claimed, just to help Marcus scare her. According to Devin, the plan was simple: stage a home break-in, frighten Layla, and use that fear to force her into signing papers that would give Marcus full parental rights, and push her to move out. But when things got physical, Devin claimed Marcus lost it. He put his hands on her, Devin said. I tried to pull him back, but she was screaming. He said we had to shut her up. Devin claimed he didn't touch Layla himself, that Marcus was the one who choked her, that Simone was never supposed to be there. But phone pings, and later, DNA on a shattered perfume bottle, would place all 3 of them at the scene that night. For detectives, it was the motive they'd been searching for. Not just infidelity, not just greed, but a coordinated plan fueled by resentment, selfishness, and ambition. Marcus had been drowning in quiet debt. A failed investment property, a high car payment, a line of credit on the Monroe home he hadn't told Layla about. The $500,000 life insurance payout wasn't just a bonus, it was a lifeline. Simone, meanwhile, had her own reasons. She had once dreamed of a life with Marcus, long before Layla came into the picture. Friends told investigators she was obsessed. One even claimed Simone said, "If Layla's gone, I'd have everything." And Devin? He was promised $30,000 to keep his mouth shut and help stage the break-in. What he didn't realize was that he was walking into a crime that had already been written. What the evidence suggested was chilling. Layla was meant to be scared, isolated. Instead, she fought back. She screamed. She ran. And in that chaos, Marcus and Simone crossed a line they could never come back from. The plan to manipulate the scene unraveled quickly. The staged fall was sloppy, the cleanup incomplete, the digital trail damning, and the most tragic detail? Layla's unborn daughter, Promise, may have survived the initial attack. The coroner's report suggested the baby had a heartbeat for several minutes after Layla's collapse, minutes that could have made the difference. But no one called for help. Not Simone, not Marcus, not Devin. They didn't just let her die. They let both of them die. In the eyes of the law, it was no longer just a domestic dispute. It was a murder-for-profit conspiracy, planned, executed, and covered up by 3 people who had once been part of Layla's inner circle. But just when investigators thought they had it all figured out, another twist came from Layla's voicemail inbox. A saved message, never deleted, from Simone, dated 1 week before the murder. "Hey girl, just checking on you. You know I love you. Don't stress about Marcus, okay? Some men just need to be reminded who they're lucky to have. Talk soon." It was chilling, sweet on the surface, but laced with venom. And that's when the lead detective said something that stuck with everyone who heard it. This wasn't just about money. It was about control, and Layla was never supposed to survive. The final hours of Layla Monroe's life were pieced together like fragments of a shattered mirror. According to digital timestamps, neighbor footage, and Devin Harris's partial confession, the deadly plan was set in motion around 10:45 p.m. on June 4th. That night, Layla had argued with Marcus again. Her sister later said Layla planned to sleep in the guest room, but she never made it there. At 11:03 p.m., Marcus texted Simone one word: "Ready." 3 minutes later, Simone pulled into the Monroe neighborhood, driving her black Audi, lights off, gliding past unsuspecting homes already darkened for the night. Devin Harris arrived shortly after. According to his own statement, he entered through the back gate Marcus had deliberately left unlatched earlier that day. He carried gloves, a flashlight, and a bottle of bleach in his backpack. Inside the house, Layla had just come from the kitchen. Her phone, later found on the counter, had a half-typed message to her sister that read, "Something's wrong." That message was never sent. At 11:21 p.m., the power briefly cut out in the Monroe home. A breaker flipped from the fuse box outside. Marcus had planned it that way. Just enough, Devin said, to get her to come downstairs. Layla did what anyone would do. She walked into the darkened hallway, calling out for Marcus. She never expected 2 masked figures to emerge from the shadows. Devin later claimed they only meant to grab her phone and scare her. But Layla fought back. She screamed. She ran toward the staircase. And that's when Marcus grabbed her from behind. According to the coroner, the bruising on Layla's neck was consistent with manual strangulation, lasting longer than 20 seconds. She scratched him. Skin fragments later found beneath her fingernails matched Marcus Monroe's DNA. The fall down the stairs wasn't an accident. It was the final blow. Layla's body struck the corner of a wooden step, fracturing her jaw and skull. Her blood, found later splattered beneath the stairs, told a story of force, not clumsiness. Simone arrived inside moments later, panicked when she saw what had happened. She hadn't expected Marcus to go that far, Devin claimed. But once Layla was dead, the cover-up began. Together, they moved her body, just slightly, to position her head as if she had tumbled. They planted her cracked phone on the counter. Marcus wiped down the banister. Simone gathered cleaning rags. Devin sprayed bleach over the lower stairs and threw Layla's nightgown into a trash bag. They forgot one thing, the DVR system. Unbeknownst to them, a small interior camera hidden inside a baby monitor in the nursery, installed by Layla just weeks earlier, captured faint audio from the hallway. The timestamp footage didn't show faces, but the raised voices, the struggle, and the sudden silence were enough to narrow the window of death between 11:30 p.m. and 11:41 p.m. At 6:43 a.m. the next morning, Marcus drove Layla's car to the gas station to buy himself time. He returned at 7:08 a.m. and made the 911 call from inside the house, feigning shock. But the cracks began showing almost immediately. He didn't touch his wife's body. He didn't cry. And when asked by paramedics if she had been injured before, he simply said, "She's clumsy. Falls a lot." That, investigators would later say, was the moment they knew something was off. The bleach, the broken picture frame, the phone with no fingerprints. All of it pointed to one truth. This was no accident. It was a murder staged as misfortune, cold, deliberate, and brutal. But the most horrifying detail came from the autopsy. Baby Promise had shown signs of life for nearly 4 minutes after Layla's collapse. A simple emergency call, had it been made, could have saved her. Instead, the trio stood over Layla's dying body, arguing about what to do. Marcus chose silence. Simone chose bleach. Devin chose to disappear. And Layla Monroe, teacher, sister, mother-to-be, was left at the bottom of the stairs. Silenced. Erased. Until the truth clawed its way to the surface. The Monroe case would have remained a tragic footnote in a local police blotter, just another domestic accident. If not for the relentless work of 2 lead investigators, Detective Carla Riggins and Sergeant Leo Mathers. By mid-July, the pieces were finally aligning. The turning point came when forensics finished analyzing the baby monitor from the nursery. While the device did not record video in the hallway, the audio captured the unmistakable sound of Layla's scream, a scuffle, and then, most damning of all, 3 distinct voices arguing. One of them clearly male, one clearly female, the third more subdued, and a timestamp that placed the chaos precisely at 11:38 p.m. It wasn't just circumstantial. It was real-time evidence of 3 people present, when Marcus had insisted he was alone and had only just returned home that morning. The police moved quickly. On July 19, 2022, a SWAT team executed simultaneous arrest warrants in 3 locations: Marcus Monroe's office, Simone Jackson's Buckhead condo, and Devin Harris's apartment on the south side. Marcus was taken into custody without incident. Calm, silent, wearing a crisp suit and tie. When asked if he knew why he was being arrested, he replied, "I figured this day might come." At Simone's residence, officers found her attempting to delete apps from her phone when they knocked. She answered the door with mascara running down her cheeks, a half-packed suitcase on the couch behind her. Devin Harris, on the other hand, tried to run. He fled out the back door and was caught 2 blocks away hiding behind a recycling bin. His sneakers were still untied. All 3 were charged with conspiracy to commit murder, first-degree murder, and the unlawful death of an unborn child, a charge that carries additional weight under Georgia law. During the transport, body cam footage captured a haunting exchange. As Marcus was being escorted into the patrol car, a reporter called out, "Marcus, did you kill your wife?" He didn't answer. But Simone, already in the adjacent squad car, screamed back, "He promised me a life. He said it would be clean." That outburst, caught on multiple cameras, would later be used as evidence at trial. Investigators seized additional devices, documents, and digital data over the following days. In a secure folder on Marcus's laptop, they found a PowerPoint presentation titled Post-Layla Budget, breaking down life insurance payouts, debt repayments, and an estimated timeline for selling the Monroe house. His plan wasn't just personal. It was financial. Cold. Calculated. Detective Riggins would later say, "In 20 years, I've never seen someone turn grief into a spreadsheet." But the arrests weren't the final blow. It was the leaked interrogation tapes, released to the public under Georgia's open records law, that made the story national news. The footage showed Simone sobbing under the pressure of questioning. "He told me she was going to leave him, that she didn't want the baby anymore, that she was cheating too. I didn't mean to hurt her. I wanted us." Devin, cornered and exhausted, confessed more than he realized. He said nobody would believe a teacher could be murdered by her husband. Said black women die in childbirth all the time. That's what people would think. The horror wasn't just in the act. It was in the cold confidence with which it had been planned. Within days, the story exploded on social media. Hashtag Justice for Layla and hashtag Protect Black Women trended nationwide. Thousands of strangers rallied behind Layla's family, sending flowers, messages, and donations. The arrests brought a sense of relief. But the emotional damage? That would take far longer to heal. The trial of Marcus Monroe, Simone Jackson, and Devin Harris began on February 6, 2023, inside Fulton County Superior Court. But by then, this was no longer just a local tragedy. It was a national spectacle. Court TV live-streamed the proceedings. Protesters and supporters crowded the courthouse steps each morning. Layla's face, radiant and round with pregnancy in her final photo, was printed on signs held by mourners who had never even met her. The prosecution built its case around one damning theme: she trusted them. And they planned her death anyway. Assistant District Attorney Nadine Wallace led the charge, methodically laying out a timeline steeped in digital footprints, financial motives, and emotional betrayal. She introduced text messages, GPS data, surveillance footage, and Devin's partial confession. But the true centerpiece of the trial was the audio from the baby monitor. The courtroom sat in dead silence as Layla's scream echoed through the speakers. Gasps could be heard when the three voices emerged in the aftermath: chaotic, frantic, unmistakable. One juror wiped away tears. Another looked away completely. Marcus's defense attorney claimed the audio was inconclusive, suggesting the sounds were from a movie playing in another room. But the jury didn't buy it. Neither did the judge. Simone's defense tried a different tactic, painting her as manipulated, emotionally abused by Marcus, and desperate for love. But on cross-examination, the prosecution introduced emails Simone had written to a friend just weeks before the murder. "She doesn't deserve the life I should be living. He'll see that one day." Devin Harris, the youngest and only defendant to take a plea deal, became the prosecution's reluctant star witness. In exchange for a reduced sentence, he testified against both Marcus and Simone, walking the jury through the plan, and through Layla's final moments. He sobbed on the stand. But for Layla's family, no apology would ever be enough. The verdict came on March 13th, after just 4 hours of deliberation. Marcus Monroe, guilty on all counts. Simone Jackson, guilty on all counts. Devin Harris, guilty on lesser charges through plea. Marcus and Simone were each sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole, plus an additional 20 years for the unlawful death of an unborn child. Devin received 25 years, with eligibility for parole after 15. When the sentence was read, Layla's sister Camille stood and held up a framed photo of Layla holding her ultrasound. "You didn't just kill my sister," she said through tears. "You killed a dream. You killed her daughter. You killed something sacred." Layla's former students sent letters to the court. One read, "I hope Miss Monroe is in heaven teaching the angels how to read." Outside the courtroom, District Attorney Wallace addressed the crowd. "This case is not just about betrayal. It's about how easy it is to dismiss black women when they say something feels wrong. Layla knew something was off, and no one saved her." In the months following the trial, the Monroe family launched the Promise Project, a nonprofit focused on supporting pregnant black women in emotionally abusive or high-risk relationships. The organization has since helped over 300 women access legal and prenatal services. Layla's childhood home now houses the foundation's offices. Her former classroom at Jefferson Elementary has been renamed Miss Monroe's Reading Room. This wasn't just a murder. It was a blueprint of betrayal. A wife, 8 months pregnant, lulled into a false sense of safety by the man who promised to protect her. A best friend, once trusted with her secrets, turned co-conspirator. And a plan so cold, so methodical, that it turned a family home into a crime scene. Layla Monroe never stood a chance. But in her absence, she became a voice a symbol for every woman whose instincts are silenced, whose fears are brushed off, and whose love is weaponized against them. In the end, Marcus didn't just kill his wife. He murdered the life they claimed to be building together. Simone didn't just betray a friendship. She helped orchestrate the silencing of someone who had once called her sister. And Devon? He became the cautionary tale of what happens when silence and greed become compliance. But Layla's story doesn't end in the courtroom. It lives on in every woman who now trusts her gut. Every teacher who hugs her students a little tighter. Every sister who speaks out when something feels wrong. What drives someone to trade love for control? What turns a friend into a killer? And how many more Laylas are out there, still smiling through the danger? Let us know your thoughts in the comments. We read every single one. If this story moved you, please like, share, and subscribe. It helps us keep telling the stories that matter. Until next time, stay safe, trust your instincts, and never ignore a quiet cry for help.